Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
To some, we could be called career wizards.
And to others, sometimes we seem like therapists. However, we definitely are not.
But for you, we are the co-hosts of the Career Boosters podcast.
I tend to do one thing, then move on to the next. It's so easy for me to hustle through days and days and events, but to be able to just pause for a bit and appreciate every step that I crossed in order to come to this, that was pretty good. I appreciated that.
Hello and welcome to the Career Boosters podcast. I am Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
And we have a very exciting guest today, Priyanka. Thank you so much for joining us. So, we just finished orientation with new MBA students, and the time of year is very exciting, it's exhausting, and it's motivating. All of those three things for at least myself, and I think I can speak for Tiffany, and I can't wait to hear about orientation for you, Priyanka. So the chance to see new students navigate these large learning events are filled with meeting new people, taking part in activities that kind of help them at least a little bit start to understand themselves. And really, for Tiffany and I, it's about having fun and getting people integrated into what this MBA program is all about. So one of the students that was a part of our orientation, Priyanka Singh, is going to join us. And she was one of the first people to put her hands up and say, I would like to be a guest on this wonderful podcast that we have. So thank you so much. I get to start with the first question, Priyanka. So if you can tell us a little bit about the story behind your decision to embark on an MBA journey right now.
Sure. I've had a good run so far. So I graduated as a mechanical engineer. Then I got the opportunity to come to Kuwait to work in the oil and gas industry. I have spent about 5 years there, but towards the last 2 years, things were looking pretty stagnant in my career ladder, I would say. I was not having the growth that I was expecting, and every day looked the same. So that's when I decided that I had some experience. I would say I was motivated by the leaders I saw in my company, and it made me feel like I would love to learn to do this, to manage people, to do something which is for the betterment of the company as a whole. And I decided that I need to start challenging myself and get out of this comfort bubble that I'm in, which is why I decided to look for opportunities to study for an MBA. And Alberta, the School of Business has its amazing reputation and great history to back it up. So that's how I landed up at UFA, School of Business.
Fabulous. Well, welcome. We're
Thank you.
super excited to have you here. And I
Likewise.
love some of the words that you just used because that's what we're here to talk about. So you talked about looking for growth, learning, challenge, being uncomfortable. And those are everything that it gets encompassed in this last week that you had of orientation. Not only, yes, kicking off a 2-year growth and learning journey, but orientation itself for a week, a little over a week, is entirely all about growth, learning, settling in, challenging yourself. I'm curious to hear from you. Let's just kick off. If you had to describe this last orientation week in a few sentences, how would you describe it?
Initially daunting. When I looked through the schedule, I was like, 1 week. Are you sure? I was like, oh, that's going to take a lot of our time and patience. But once I got into it, it was unexpected. Every day I would be like, what are we going to do today? So it was exciting, I would say. I had amazing opportunities being in those 4 or 5 days. So my experience summed up would be exciting and adventurous and an opportunity to grow and honestly learn about myself just as much as I got to talk to others and learn about them. So these things were pretty unexpected, but pleasantly unexpected. That's kind of what I felt about the whole thing.
I love that the first word that you just used was daunting,
Yeah.
because at some point in the summer, as Paul and I start to prep for this, that's 100, I speak for myself, but that's 100% a word that we use when we kind of come up to, oh yeah, here we go again, a week long of planning. And we also, I think, find it exciting and adventurous. And I think also, and again, I'll speak for myself, we grow and learn about ourselves every time we do this. So I really appreciate that the experience you had is actually kind of similar to the experience that I think Paul and I had. I don't know, Paul, would you tack on any other words to how you experience orientation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as I've grown through being a career coach in this MBA program, and I think this was my 11th orientation, we're always in a state of iteration, right? We're always in a state of how can we make this better for students? And so daunting is one of the words, but I would say there's a comfort to it as I've gotten more familiar with, certain parts of orientation. And then there's excitement of I get to bring new activities and new events in as well. And so all of the words that we've used about the MBA so far, I would say I personally experienced through the summer as well. So, Priyanka, when we think about kind of these large learning events and coming to these kind of orientations or things like that, have you ever experienced any large learning events in your professional or educational journey so far that maybe compare or maybe a little different to this MBA orientation?
So in my company, we had this culture of celebrating small and big wins. So when our department would crush a target or do well with the client, our managers would hold this grand lunch or a dinner occasion where we would get to meet other departments and the people there, and even like our head office people who we usually did not interact with, right? We used to just keep working with our teams on a day-to-day basis. I used to look forward to those events because in networking, in casual, we would be discussing what we were working on, and unexpectedly, we would get solutions from a totally different department. And that was always wonderful to experience. And the best part of it was we got to take a break from our daily work routine, and we could just relax, have some good food, have some conversations, and just celebrate small or big wins. So I wouldn't say it was the same experience as this, but it's the closest to meeting a different variety of people on the same day for an event.
I want to pick out a word there that you just said, unexpected.
Yes.
You talked about unexpected for you solutions in these dinners and events that you're talking about. I'm curious, what was unexpected for you within the MBA orientation?
I never expected that my cohort and the fellow students that I'll be meeting and probably seeing for the next 2 years came from such a variation of backgrounds. Like there's fine arts, there are some engineers, there are people in the medical stream that have come to get an MBA done. I think I was so surprised seeing how different everyone's story was. And to be able to share that when we met through our conversations was really enlightening. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I was different, but here's a whole bunch of amazing people, and I'm learning so much just through talking to them, and sharing stories. That was pretty unexpected to me.
If you let it, that diversity will continue to surprise you and continue to be unexpected, I think, throughout your MBA. And it's one of the biggest superpowers, I would say, of the MBA, if you allow it to be. Paul, was there anything unexpected for this that you talked about? This is number 11 for you. So does anything surprise you these days in orientation?
That's interesting. What surprised me this year was the willingness to just participate in things. And it was a full on, every single person just bought into everything that we did. Usually we have maybe a couple students in the back and they're sitting there with their arms crossed and they're like, what am I doing here? But I think what surprised me most was actually the complete engagement into all of the activities, all of the lessons that we were trying to educate people on, and then like just the building of relationships. I think that was great. This was an exceptional year for the willingness and the ability to build great relationships.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Personally, this being number 2 for me, not number 11, number 2, I think what surprised me was how much more comfortable I was just even between first year and second year, and how that showed up even just between Paul and I and our ability to facilitate kind of on the fly. And so I really enjoyed that, in addition to all of the things that you just said, Paul. So Priyanka, I have to imagine that there was a good amount of preparation on your end that went into, sure, the MBA and getting here, but this week specifically, how did you prep for orientation?
The most important part was giving myself a pep talk. I'll be like, I'm going to meet new people. It's going to be fine. I used to think I was an extrovert, but this orientation made me realize that I'm probably ambivert, I think I would make sure my bag was packed, those small things, have some water with me. I always carry a notebook. I used to jot down things that I knew I could probably forget. Like when you guys told us that you would be recording for this podcast, I made sure to write that down. Like I'm going to have to email Tiffany about that. Things like that. It was mostly, okay, I was the most nervous right before I was leaving the house. But after that, it was just smooth sailing. I would just tell myself, I'm going to have a good time. Everything will be fine. You will like the day at the end of the day. So it's mostly been me just reassuring myself, being like, it's okay. You have experienced people through your past, through your work experience. You have done this. You're going to be just fine and you're going to appreciate this later on.
That's
That's been
awesome.
me.
It sounds like you believe in yourself, right? You need those, sometimes we all need the little pep talks that we can give ourselves and bring us back to like, you've done this before, so you'll be just fine. And then, the one thing that I hope Tiffany and I start to build is a little bit of trust when it comes to, I can kind of trust this process that people are putting me through to have fun, to engage, to meet new people. And at the end of the day, that is supposed to be fun. We don't want it to be scary, but we can understand that at the start it can be very scary. The thing I love that what you talked about is I carry a little notebook with me to take those. And if I think about my, when we think about last episode, we talked with Lindsay about journaling and things like that, and that's a beautiful exercise, just to have something with you to reflect and have something with you to jot down those little notes so you don't forget anything. So when we think about orientation, and overwhelm is sometimes a part of that orientation process, how did you guard against being overwhelmed?
So I always tried to make sure that once I was back home at the end of the day, I would not go through my notes right away. I would try to do simple things like some house chores. I'm currently living with my sister, so she's a warm, welcoming distraction from my next day at orientation. I've tried reading and listening to music. Just in general, making sure that I focus on other things that I usually enjoy so that I can be recharged for the next day and give my best and make the most use of the day ahead. And I can only do that if I have a good like recharge social battery, So I've focused on those things, the simple things that do not remind me of my program.
Yes. And spoiler alert to class number 2, we can't soak in learnings unless we give our brain a chance to do the mundane, to do the simple, like you said, to sleep. That's when we soak in, categorize, kind of file away all these learnings. And if we don't take that opportunity, we've just sat through all this great knowledge and we don't get to soak it in. So congratulations to you for doing that. Did you find a point in the week where perhaps you hit a bit of a wall? So there's, like you said, there's lots of things on the go, lots of information. I'd be curious because it's different for everyone. When did you maybe find a bit of a peak?
With all due respect to Paul, his activity, the brainchild activity, the moment we got it and I saw the deliverables and what was to come, I think it was a 3-hour thing. I was like, I'm too exhausted for this. I don't think I can get through this. And I believe it was like the last or the second last day. And I was like, I did it all along, but I don't think I have the patience for this. Because I don't know, resumes and CVs always kind of make me so self-conscious. And I get drained before I even started. A part of me is a little conscious about having to properly be able to represent myself on paper. So to do that for a random guy as part of the activity was like, this is going to take a while. I appreciated that we had a team, so we were able to delegate fairly enough. But still, like if I had to do it on my own, I'd probably be very exhausted before even starting it up. It was a big one.
Yeah, and so if you're listening or watching, it's a branding activity where we give kind of an overview of some fake person, and you need to be kind of a publicity consultant and build a resume, a cover letter, LinkedIn profile, all of those things for this person in a very short amount of time. And it's meant to be challenging. It's meant to kind of get you against a wall to be, how can we accomplish this in such little time? And we even gave this little caveat in the class. If Tiffany and I were to do that, and this is our areas of expertise, it would be very difficult. But I think that you're going to come across these things in the MBA And in life, you come across these really challenging opportunities, and it's how do I represent myself in the best possible way through these challenging opportunities, right? And
Mm.
I get that it's hard, but life is hard sometimes, and we need to navigate through these tough times. And every single student did such an awesome job in that activity, and it's super fun to watch. So in reflection of orientation, we really appreciate kind of these, and I take no offense to this activity that I created that you felt like against the wall. But when we think about orientation, what was a moment of learning that kind of stands out to you the most from orientation?
I'll bring back another activity, the one where we had to, I'll give it away though, where we had to draw our career journey and then have to explain it to someone else. I think that was so self-enlightening. Like while I was going through it, we had about 2 hours to prepare. I was like, wow, I've gone through a bit. I was suddenly a little more appreciative of myself. And the ambience was perfect. It was quiet. Everyone was doing their thing. It was quite relaxing. You guys had given us our space to get things done. It was kind of therapeutic, I'm not gonna lie. To be Everyone was like passing by and we were all complimenting each other's progress. And at the end to have to recite it all and kind of map it to someone else felt very liberating, I would say. I definitely came out of that experience kind of appreciating my journey a little more because I tend to like do one thing, then move on to the next. It's so easy for me to hustle through days and days and events, but to be able to just pause for a bit and appreciate every step that I crossed in order to come to this, that was pretty good. I appreciated that day a lot. I don't think I would have done that on a normal occasion, but since it was a part of our activity, I appreciated that.
We are very intentional in kind of not only what activities we do, but when we do them. And we recognize that there is hustle. I like the word that you just used. And there's hustle in orientation too. There is a lot of go, go, go. There's a lot of learn, learn, learn. And what space can we give you to have a bit of breathing room and reflection time? Yeah. I'm curious with though some of that hustle, like you said, it's easy to just go through, kind of run from one to another. How are you ensuring that you're not losing the learnings of orientation and the hustle of the start of the MBA? How are you making sure you soak them in?
I always try to keep some space between, let's say, one subject and coming back to that subject to revise. Uh, this will sound a little off topic, but sleeping has helped me a lot. On days when I have a good night's sleep, I wake up and I can grasp things way faster. Since I maintain notes, I try to give some time and go back to the notes of the subject. Then there are technical things like e-class. They have a lot of resources there to study. But my main strategy is the same, spacing it out, having a time management system where I can get back to it. I have enough time to get back to it, but after making sure that I've done something that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So spacing, keeping these gaps in between
Yeah.
studies, revisions, and just living as well, because I'm here.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. I
Yeah.
get to go on walks
Mhm.
whenever I want to. The skies are beautiful. The weather is good so far.
So far you've got the best of Canadian summers so far. The worst is yet to come for fall and winter, but we'll not scare you too much with that. The thing that I appreciate what you talked about is what I heard is balance, and what I heard is this ability to make sure that I recharge, make sure that there's a time and a moment to kind of reflect on a day, but also prepare myself for the next day. And I think we as individuals try to take on and do so many things that balance is so important. So when we think about orientation and when we think about next year's group that will come in for orientation, what advice do you have for MBA students next year as they approach orientation?
Do not overthink it, guys. But first, the most important thing is the second you guys have been admitted to this program and you have your especially for the international students. If you have your study permits in check, email your MBA program and check with them what are the days of orientation. Try not to miss it. Try to incorporate your travel schedule with the same because it will be so worth it. You just be yourself. Believe me, there are people way more nervous than you think you are, and you're going to meet amazing people. You're going to have great facilitators. You'll get a very good head start by knowing the things that you would need in your MBA study journey. So please don't overthink it. Just relax, take a deep breath, make sure you've slept enough and you've eaten enough. We were lucky to have like free breakfast and lunch every single day. So that was great. Fuel yourself up, and just don't overthink it. Enjoy the process. It's gonna be worth it. You will thank yourself later. I would say that to them.
Aw. I want to dig just a little bit further on this don't overthink it, because I think it is fabulous advice, that it is one of the most common things that MBA students do before orientation or within the first 2 days is overthink a lot of stuff. But I also think it's easier to say don't overthink it than to actually not overthink it.
Yeah.
What's one strategy that you use to help yourself not overthink it?
I'd probably try to, let's say I'm going to go for my orientation. The way to overthink is to distract myself healthily. I'll probably do some reading. I love black coffee, so I'd make myself a nice cup and just try to listen to some music. The aim would be to kind of get myself comfortable doing the things that I enjoy, maybe like a quick half an hour thing. I'd get up early for that. I'd just calm myself and do something I like, and then just head there. Plan my journey. Of course, I'm new to this place. So I would be like, okay, I'm going to catch this train, this and that comforted me, having a plan. And I would just go in, and on the 5th floor, room 540, I just start talking. I mean, there are people who are always in a good mood most of the time, and we just start our conversations before you guys come in, and we get to sit and listen. So these things, these normal processes have helped me a lot. Just going with the flow, I would say.
Yeah, that's cool. The thing I love about that, it's, the black coffee, the listening to music, the making sure you're prepared, that works for you. What works for you may not work for someone else, but I think that's where parts of introspection come from. I'll gladly take the coffee, put a little bit of milk in there for me, and I'm ready to go. And but these are all shared things, and if we are balanced, rested, and encouraged to go in, what a wonderful thing to be a part of. So
I think Priyanka and I might be coffee soulmates, because I just watched the look on her face when you said put a little milk on it. Both her and I like, don't do it. Not if it's good coffee. You and I can talk coffee. I'll tell you where to go in Edmonton, Priyanka.
Please. I'm still
I will. There's some really great options. But nobody's sponsoring this podcast, so I'm not going to say them.
No free ads.
Right.
No free ads, Tiffany.
No. All right, Priyanka, I think it's time for a lightning round. You ready?
Oh, yes.
All right, let's do it. 3 quick questions, 3 gut answers.
Okay.
Tell me, what part of your career story has given you the biggest boost?
Interacting with people on a day-to-day basis, not just sitting at my laptop and getting the work done and going back. I think being able to talk to everyone to try to come to a conclusion with work helped me get the confidence that I needed to come here and get an MBA done.
Perfect. What's one thing you wish you'd learned sooner?
Oh, talking to people. Initially, when I joined my company, I was the introvert. I was all about, this is my time. I clock in, get my work done, clock out, and that's it. I have to focus. I cannot waste my time making friends. But I didn't realize that it's not just friendship, it's valuable networking that would help me with my work eventually. So I wish I had started opening up and trusting people sooner at work. Not everyone is as bad as we think they are.
All right, and service is super important to Paul and I. It's part of who we are. So we're always curious to hear, how is service going to show up for you in the coming week?
So I did some investigating, and I went to the Rutherford Library, and there's this section, trolley called free books, where you can just pick up what you need, and that's it. You don't have to return it. It's just books that prior students have left behind for anyone to read. So I think I'm going to go tell some of my friends that, because I found some readers, and I'm just going to be like, just let's go there and we can grab anything we like and just keep it and probably return it back. Paid forward.
Very, very cool. I love that. All right, Paul's random question.
Oh, goodness.
I promise this is not going to be hard. Priyanka, you and I we're gonna get to know each other through these 2 years of this MBA program, and so I can't wait to learn more about you. But I would love to hear you as an international student working in Kuwait and coming to an MBA in Canada. What do you think is the biggest difference so far between Kuwait and Canada?
People are, this is problematic. People are way nicer here. Everyone seems very welcoming and helpful. That's been, and language, like back in Kuwait, not knowing Arabic, their national language, did create certain disadvantages for me. And here, English goes everywhere. So
Yeah,
I never have that feeling that I'm missing out on conversations or information being
yeah,
passed on.
yeah,
Language and the nature of people in general
yeah,
has been very different from
yeah.
there to here.
You're going to find the thing I always laugh at is when two people are standing at a door and they're trying to figure out who's going through first. And I always call it a Canadian standoff because two people being very polite to each other. And that doesn't mean that people aren't polite in different parts of the world. I think that's just, there's so many different intricacies of cities and countries around the world. And I think, Canadians were known as really friendly and really polite people. And I think that's why you're going to probably experience a little different atmosphere, if you will.
If I may add, I thought that was a stereotype until I actually came here.
It's true.
You guys are amazing.
There might be someone or two that maybe breaks the stereotype, but by and large, it's true. Yeah. Priyanka, we are so grateful that you put your hand up, that you were brave, that you are inspiring, and that you had the courage to chat with us at the very beginning of your journey. Because even though it's the beginning of your MBA journey, you are bringing in such a wealth of knowledge, such a wealth of experience. Sure, professionally, and we'll learn more about that. But I think as a person and as a human, some of the tips and tricks that you offered were just so tangible. Couldn't have said them better myself. And to know that they worked for you and for you to then want to share that with others is just truly a blessing to have you here with us. So thank you so much. And we are looking forward to seeing where you take your MBA career.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you. It was amazing, this experience.
Good.
I think
We're
I'm gonna
glad.
think about it for a while. I'll have the post podcast shake. Then I'll
Aw.
just get myself a coffee and I'll be fine.
No. Let's get you and I will go for really good black coffee. How
Done.
about that?
Done. It has to be
Deal. And
strong.
we'll bring back Paul something with milk in it. Maybe.
Sure. Maybe.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
Priyanka.
guys. Thank you.
All right. Key takeaways, as always, super hard to limit them. I will give you mine and we'll see how many Paul sticks to. One. Oh my goodness. All right. My key takeaway are 3 words that she used, and that was using space, sleep, and joy. And I think that you could take that strategy and apply it to anything beyond, really big learning events like orientation. I think there's so many places that if you were to just give yourself space, sleep, and find some joy, you'd be shocked at the mindset shift that might happen. I really appreciated those. All right, Paul, what's yours?
Okay, I am going to limit it to 1. I have promised myself, and now I'm promising Tiffany and whoever
All right,
listens to
accountability,
this
buddy.
podcast one takeaway.
Okay.
We have a conversation with ourselves more often than we have a conversation with anybody else. And the art and act of positive self-talk and the art and act of just being our own best advocate, to me, is the biggest takeaway I had from that. When she was talking about just giving herself little motivational pep talks before she left for the day, that is so powerful. And if we can stick to having positive self-talk, we get into that kind of growth mindset, which equals out to like growth development. And I think it sets us up for real powerful exchanges and real positive things to happen through the day. So
awesome. There you go. You did stick to 1. I'm proud of you. Woo! All right. Thanks again for watching. Next week, we have a 2nd-year student here to talk about her summer and what happens when things are a little unexpected, which should be a really great conversation. So catch you then. See ya. Thanks for tuning in to the Career Boosters podcast. We hope you had a blast. Yeah, we know that's corny. Catch you next time, and remember to subscribe wherever you enjoy podcasts.